can't bring me down. Already had my life turned upside down. I'm writing down each
Look, man, you got to go out in the real world and you're going to have to get some stuff done. I mean, life is not a game of tennis. It might be for me, but life is not necessarily a game of tennis, and we're trying to show them that. I've been teaching since I was a little kid, but two of them have made it to the pros, and it wasn't necessarily because I put them in the pros. So I'm not teaching people to be pros. I'm teaching kids to be good adults. I'm teaching them to problem solve.
Action!
What up, Autumn?
What's going on, James?
It's good morning.
It is a good morning.
Yeah, did I tell you that I stopped drinking soda?
You did. You did. How are you doing with that?
I'm a little hyped.
Yeah?
Yeah, did I tell you I started going to bed early?
You did indeed.
Yeah.
So
So,
you're
yeah.
looking much fresher.
vibrant?
And,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Skin
What?
tone looks great. Anything.
One last thing I want to tell you. You know, in the mornings when I wake up and I try to get my bank app
Yeah.
to turn on, I'm so ugly in the mornings, it will not recognize my face. Yeah.
That's okay. I have those moments too. I've actually gone to open up my laptop first thing in the morning and check my emails, and it does not recognize my
Right.
face.
And at first I was like, oh, well, what's going on with this thing? No, it literally doesn't. All right, I thought I'd loosen you up, girl.
Yeah, thank
All right,
you.
good.
I appreciate that. How about you? Do you feel loose? Are you ready for this?
Yes, I'm as loose as I'm gonna be.
That's
you
good.
know?
All right.
Yeah.
We'll go with it.
Yeah, we were just last night I could tell my lessons were intense, and this morning they were intense. So I'm gonna need to adjust my patience.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need to make an adjustment. So, but I feel super awake and alive. Holy cow!
It's just like retuning a race car.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is my guitar.
There you go.
All right.
Perfect.
Here we go.
So one of the things that really has always struck me about you is your leadership ability, and how you are not just a coach to the kids, but you're actually a coach to the parents at the same time.
Yeah. That one is, I'll probably say this over and over again, but some of the items are very difficult. But when you're trying to impinge on a parent's, what they do and how they go about it, it can be very delicate. So whenever I'm working with the parent, first thing I try to do is, like you said, I try to show them how I lead their child, and I try to get a really high success rate. And then in so doing, they'll trust me.
Right.
Some parents trust me more than others, but what I'm really trying to show them is, like, I've been at this for a long time, and these are the most efficient tools to get your kid to do whatever the item is that they're trying to get them to do. you
Yeah.
know? I don't always, a lot of times wherever the parent's trying to go in whatever direction, I don't necessarily always agree with that direction.
Yeah.
And so in those situations, I'll just tell them, I won't necessarily give you a tool here, but if it's something I can do to make the child more responsible,
Right.
or to make just their living environment easier, I mean, I'll definitely show them everything that I possibly can.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you've seen changes over the time, because you build relationships with not just the kids, but with the parents as well. I know that some of these kids have been with you for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And how do you see, like, you start to see a change, not just in the kid, but in the parents too, as you build the relationship and you start giving them tools?
Yeah, for sure. Some of the kids, like you said, some of the kids graduate. I'm so old now that they graduate out of my program, and they're bringing their children back to me.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a good side of that wow, and an odd side of the wow.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But it is good to see their children come back. And one of the best compliments I ever got was a young boy named King Jeremy, and he went to work, and he was only like 20 years old, and he went to this job, and he was working for them, and they were like, how do you work so hard? Like, you just work so hard. And they were like, how do you do it? You're 19 years old. How do you have such a hard work ethic? And he just looked at him, laughed, and said, James Springer's my boss. And, you know, I mean, when he was telling me the story,
Yeah.
I got it. Because, you know, it's kind of passed down from my father and all the great coaches that I ever had. I'm just trying to get the kids to, look, man, you got to go out in the real world and you're going to have to get some stuff done. I mean, life is not a game of tennis. It might be for me, but life is not necessarily a game of tennis. And we're trying to show them that.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. I definitely see it as kind of like, you know, creating like the launch pad and giving them the rocket fuel for life, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily ever really think of myself as a tennis coach, but tennis is our vehicle for showing them everything that we can possibly show them.
Yeah.
And there's so many fun things to do in the game of tennis to show them that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, every single drill has a responsibility. Every single interaction has a responsibility. Anytime we, you know, the gradient goes up, there's always, you know, change of responsibility. And it's fun to just kind of pull the kid aside and say, do you see how this situation is different than that situation? And have them go, oh, yeah, they're not the same situation. So
Yeah.
it's fun to put in that responsibility over and over and over.
Yeah, most definitely. I've seen just the one or two times that I've brought my kids in to spend some time with you, and the awareness that comes up afterwards, and you know, the wins that they have when they've been on the courts with you, and you know, how you can start to see little things about, you know, and the realizations that they're having and the connections that they're making between, you know, responsibility and their physical ability, and really starting to like open up about that. It's something that I really have admired about you when it comes to coaching, is you have an innate ability to be able to do that. And it's
Well, first of all, I appreciate that compliment because it doesn't, it's, you know, it took me a long time to learn how to appreciate those compliments. You know, there's two kind of little, you know, piece of communication I want to send back on that. Is one is we're old school, and I do hug kids. I hug kids all the time. You know, there's certain kids that need a hug. Sometimes, I mean, it's a reciprocal hug. There's sometimes I need to hug a kid to be sure that he understands that I actually really, really love you. I know it doesn't sound like I love you. You know, some kids are just huggable kids. That's how, like, that's their communication.
Yeah.
And if you miss that on them, you're gonna miss out. You know, it's some kids we don't ever hug.
Yeah.
You know, they don't need it. They just don't need it. You know, but we definitely let them know that we love them. But when I see a kid, and we really reward this and we recognize it, when we see a kid doing something before we ask, we love to let them know.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, like way to get that done. Hey, I noticed that we didn't even have to mention that. Well done. Or we call them to the circle, and when we're all standing in a circle, we identify this kid doesn't have to be told anything, and we really hype it up.
Yeah.
And then they really want to get it done, you know, because it is always, it's a juggling act between discipline and reward, and
True.
discipline and reward. And I've been on the, you know, the right side and the wrong side of both.
Yeah. I think that's important. You have to you have to have experienced both sides, both the good and the bad, so that you can tune into kids more easily to make sure that they're getting exactly what they need to nurture them, because everybody's different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We learned that last night. You know, a parent looked me dead in the eye and he said, they're all different. I said, yeah, and if you don't figure it out, you won't have a client.
Yeah.
You know? So,
sure.
and, you know, we're definitely not just trying to hang on to kids, but, you know, we're trying to give a little bit of what we think that they're going to need, but we also kind of want to know what the child wants as well. What do you think leadership is, and what can I show you so that you can get more of what you think leadership is? And there's just, some of the tools are very easily, you know.
Yeah.
You just got to show the kid that there's another human being next to you. Sometimes they just see another kid as a playmate.
Right.
And like, you got to make them real. You
Yeah.
know, you got to like show him, no, this is flesh, this is bone.
Yeah.
You know, this kid has emotions too.
Yeah.
And but when they see that, then they're like, oh wow, I want to, you know, I want to step up. I want to care for this kid. And one of my favorite things is we have mentors in our program, and I mean, mentors is an understatement for my kids, because I make them work so hard, but they love to help the younger generation, especially when you show it to them. They love to help. Like you just got to show it to them, and then they turn it up over and over and over.
Yeah.
You know, our current helpers are ZT. He's just amazing, and it's not like he's a certain age or has a certain level of experience. I mean, we've had to teach him everything. And a young boy named Finn, same thing. He's very young. And it's not like he's the best tennis player here, but that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for mentorship, you
Right.
know? And then my man TNT, who happens to be hanging out with us today, he's just, when he's caring for other kids, those kids are different when they're caring for other kids.
True.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's an awesome part of our program, besides the fact it makes my job so much easier.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
when you're getting them involved and teaching them leadership and really that sense of camaraderie, it's one of those things that I notice, especially today, we're struggling with when it comes to our youth, our younger generations. Not to mention, I mean, the last couple of years has been hard on a lot of people and really stunted a lot of growth and just. You really are shoring that up, I notice, with the kids that are here. And it's something that, I wish you could teach a leadership class to, to some other adults in the area, especially the ones that are interacting with our youth, because there are some things that are missing. And if these kids aren't getting it, the product that we're getting as a nation isn't going to be as good as it could be. And these are the people that are going to be succeeding us. They're just little.
Yep. Yeah, it's it's sometimes I think it's so simple, but we all know that it's not. It's not that simple. I was lucky enough to go talk at the local prison recently, and it's funny.
Very
The
cool.
same things that I talked to with my kids, I talked to there's probably about 85 inmates, and they wanted the same stuff.
Yeah.
They wanted the same thing. And the idea is to get it to them now so that they don't end up in that situation. Because sometimes the difference between success and not having success as a young man or an adult living in today's society is sometimes it's literally one decision.
Yes.
It's one decision. And so, it's never hard for me to be tough on a kid. It's not hard at all, right? Whereas other people, like they go back and forth with it. It's not hard for me because I know that I might be that one decision away from them sitting in that environment, and I don't want that for them. And so if they're mad at me, I tell kids all the time, you don't have to love me now. You love me down the road. You don't have to love me now. It's okay,
That's what a true coach would say. So you might hate me now, but that's okay.
We had
You'll
one.
love me later.
Yeah, we had one awesome coach when we were kids, and I'll never forget him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was tough on everybody. We loved him.
Yeah.
He was like the coolest coach ever. And I'm not trying to emulate him, but I won't have that fear.
Do you feel like you just mentioned this person? One of the things I wanted to ask you is, you've mentioned a couple of people that have really inspired you and kind of like helped you become who you are and be able to operate on the very high level that you do. But who, if you could name one or two people that really played a huge part in you now as a person, can you talk to me a little bit about who they are?
Yeah, it really is a culmination of all.
Yeah.
It really is. Not that I can't mention a few, but obviously I just named my dad.
Yeah.
My dad, Jerry Springer, is the greatest coach that I ever had because kids want to play, and he let us play. You know what I mean? Kids don't want to listen to you talk all day. I ask the kids all the time, like, you guys want to listen to me talk? Nobody puts their hand up. And then we laugh, right? Nobody wants to hear me talk, so hurry up, get the information, and get back to work.
Right.
But my dad was the best coach that I ever had because he created action, and he taught me the importance of action. And then later, I came to gather more information on the importance of action, right? And then we tried to sneak some guidelines in along the way. I'm gonna, I think I've taught, man, I don't even know, what have I taught? Maybe 15,000, 20,000 kids in my lifetime. I don't know. I've been teaching since I was a little kid. But 2 of them have made it to the pros, and it wasn't necessarily because I put them in the pros. So I'm not teaching people to be pros. I'm teaching kids to be good adults. I'm teaching them to be able to not even necessarily be good adults. I'm teaching them to problem solve, problem solve, problem solve. That's
Right.
what we're doing.
Yes.
And I had a parent come in today, just an awesome parent. And I just said, hey, write a couple notes about things that we're good at. And the best thing he wrote was, right when the kids walk in the door, I start to communicate with them. I'm like, hey, what's your name? And of course, 7 out of 10 parents will, oh, his name is, or tell him your name. And I tell them, hey, you can't speak.
I wasn't talking to you.
You can't speak for your child.
Yeah.
And that moment right there gets very frictiony,
Yeah.
But that's the moment that I'm letting the parent know, no, from this moment forward, I want to know what your child has to say. And if your child doesn't know how to say their name, they're in trouble.
Yeah.
If your child can't figure out how to get water for themselves, they're in trouble. If your child doesn't know how to go to the bathroom and wash his hands, they're going to struggle. And so when I start asking them, what sport do you play? And sometimes I have to tell the parent to be quiet 6, 7, 8, 9 times. I'm like, hey, you can't speak for the child. But I realized in reading that how important it really is.
Yeah.
Because now I know why the kids here have so much freedom. Now I know why the kids aren't afraid to be themselves, why they
Right.
pick crazy nicknames,
Yeah.
why they aren't afraid to make mistakes. Because from the minute they came in, they knew it wasn't about my mom and dad anymore. And I care about I want the mom and dad here. The
Right.
strongest mom and dads are the ones that are making their kids the best. But it really is about finding out, who is this young man? Who is this young lady?
Yeah.
And like letting their little spirit shine,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great here too, because the parents that do stick around, they are able to discover from a different point of view, not being allowed to interfere, and starting to gain a true appreciation and understanding for who their child actually is and what they have the potential to be. And that's got to be a magical thing for some parents.
Yeah, if they can see it,
Yeah.
and most of them can, we like to think of it as like 19 out of 20 can see it. But if they can, sometimes it's the first time they get to actually discover their child,
Yeah.
not discover their child in their shadow,
Yeah.
And I mean, imagine how exciting that is for the kid.
Right.
Like, oh my God, this is who I am, right?
Totally.
Yeah, sometimes we get some wild and fun characters that pop out of these kids. And then some of them will come in and they'll be in their shell. And I'm like, you are so faking that shell.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'll yell in the parents' room like, does he act like this at home? Right? And the parents like, no, right? So, and we get them out of that shell. We make communication a super
Yeah.
important part of it.
Yeah, for sure. Just like even just boiling down to just the change of environment and having that freedom. Because I mean, and as a parent, speaking as a parent with 2 children, they don't come with instruction manuals, right? And each one is individual and made completely different. And I sometimes feel like us as parents, we tend to kind of overdo things because we're so scared of screwing up.
Yeah.
Right? And what it ends up turning into is that barrier that we're talking about, where we're not actually seeing what our kid needs. We're thinking about what we think they need, and being able to kind of like fan that out and bring them into a place where they're out of their element, we're out of our element, we're handing over control to somebody else, for the moment. It's just
Yeah.
like
It's a lot.
It is. It's hard to
Yeah.
do.
I mean, I got four dogs at home, and I don't like anybody else feeding them and watching them. Like when I leave town, I have to like have multiple people going by. Like, why is the dog bowl full? And when I'm going to fit, because there's other people, and it's just my dogs. So yeah, turning your child over to somebody can be crazy.
Yeah.
Sometimes when people give me their kids, this is the first time they've ever relinquished power ever. And because I work with them, I work with children from the minute that they can communicate. That doesn't mean with words.
Yeah.
If the little kid can go like this and know it's a phone, it's on,
Right.
know? So, like you said, it's extremely tough for the parent to let go.
Right.
It's tough. And, you were talking about an owner's manual or an instructional booklet. The one thing that I've gotten really good at is the instructional booklet changes. It changes all the time. Just let it change.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm pretty stuck in my ways now because I've got 40 years of information into that booklet. it's hard to find a piece of information that's better than the current information. But if it's out there, I'll use it. But as a parent and as a coach, you have to be willing to change. I was willing to do that so much that it's helped make TennisWerx pretty much an exact way that we go about things. And luckily, my coaching staff is willing to listen to me and understand that this isn't my own personal opinion. This is what I've observed. This is what's most efficient. And as a parent, same thing. Just let your owner's manual change, and it's okay. Like you can't let your mistakes that you made in the owner's manual, you gotta cross it off, just like me as a coach. You gotta put the new rule, and then you gotta hold your foot down on the new rule. Where we fail is we make a mistake coaching a kid, because I've made plenty of mistakes coaching a kid, and then we're afraid to implement any difficult things later. You gotta keep holding your position, even if you're wrong. You gotta hold your position, and later you're like, okay, I gotta loosen my position, then loosen it. And then sometimes you gotta tighten your position, then tighten it, you know? And that's the toughest part, because people make a mistake and then they just don't wanna do anything, or they wanna get a little too animated.
Right.
You kinda gotta, as a parent, and a coach, you gotta kinda hold the position, you know?
Yeah. See, you're making me feel a little extra special right now, because I feel like
As
I
a
just
parent?
got, as a parent, because I'm like, okay, this is coming from somebody that's literally has dedicated his entire life to creating, leaders out of children, and you're taking this time with me right now, and I actually got some. I wish I had a notebook. I got some really good nuggets out of this. Do you take the time like you're taking with me right now to help other parents that you feel could use the information?
For sure. And sometimes that phone call, when I make it, like, it doesn't always work this way, but a parent will call me and I'll see the text. And whenever I see a stressful text come through, I try to call right away, and they're like, wow, you really called back fast. I'm like, well, I wish it was always like that. But I get to get into the deep details with the parent at that time. I get to really get into the details of their kid and why their kid's doing what they're doing and why they might feel the way they do and what it is the ultimate goal. And then they're able to piece together the actual data, and then things just get better instantly.
Yeah.
And it does take a little bit of my extra time, but those are the moments that I feel best.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love to make money. Who doesn't? It creates,
That's entrepreneurship anyway, right?
It creates freedom, right?
Yes.
It allows me those moments to talk to those parents. But if I can really stop and address a problem that someone cannot fix and just show them a couple small things, and they always say the same thing, that's so simple. I know. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's very simple.
Yeah.
It's not, what I don't do is not complex. As a matter of fact, we try to, here at TennisWerx, we try to simplify and simplify and simplify and simplify. And every time it's too complex, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Never
So
works.
as humans, there's one of our fatal flaws is we tend to overcomplicate the heck out of everything. And it's good sometimes to have somebody remind us that things can be really, really simple and actually work better the simpler they get, for sure.
Yeah. Because kids, there's something we call get in the river, and you either go upstream or downstream.
Right.
If I have a kid and he comes in, he's like, oh man, I got this new, kid came in the other day, he had a new car, and he told me how it had a remote control, and it would drive, and this and that. And I was like, oh, no way, go get it out of your car, right? And the kid brought the car in, and it was nothing like the car that he said it was. But we made a track. We just made a track.
Yeah.
And that kid was totally into the lesson, because I went downriver.
Yeah.
If we would have done it my way and we would have played this number game, we would have been going upriver, and the kid might not have been as interested. But we went and got that car. I mean, the very next lesson, he bought another busted car, but it didn't matter because we were going downriver.
Right. Yeah. So creating the reality on their level to be able to create enough of a connection to where there's interest.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
Even I'm the best at it, and I still don't do enough. You got to play kids' games 24/7.
Yeah.
In a kids' industry.
Yeah. That's why you look so young, right?